the Around the NFL podcast. Living in your head.
From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL, the Week 13 flagship program. Wow, Dan Hanzus here with Gregg Rosenthal and Marc Sessler's Heroes Bowl. And this is an interesting Week 13. We had 6 teams on bye, and boys, there are many times where I miss living on the East Coast. It's days like today where I sit down and I turn on the 10 a.m. starts, and up and down the eastern seaboard, just miserable weather messing with everyone's lives, like destroying any semblance of having a fun day at the stadiums. And I think, okay, it's pretty nice out here.
Yo, 100%. And I mean, we got some weird weather suspended play, which happens. It seemed to happen like once a year whenever it's covering that game.
Yeah.
And I believe it was you, Greg, that you're suddenly watching that game an hour and a half later than all the other early slot games ending.
I mean, the Cardinals-Steelers deserve to be a 4.5-hour game. But yes, I'm always happy we're here on the West Coast. So we're not driving home either after Sunday Night Football at 12:30 at night.
Yeah, that's true. So you had, multiple games in raining or downpour conditions. You had all the soggy fields, slippery fields, all those black pellets everywhere, like on the cleats and on their faces and their face masks. And then you had all these backup quarterbacks. And all these guys that can't play. So you got some things going on around the league. But the one thing we did have, one thing we knew we had in our back pocket in this Week 13 were the Eagles and Niners. And here's the good thing. And we're going to get to the game, and maybe it wasn't the barn burner we were expecting, but we learned a lot about both teams. And also, Greggy, these guys hate each other.
And I just get the feeling it was round one to set it up for a better one next.
To Philadelphia we go.
First and 10, Niners in the Philly 48. Purdy looks left, now middle, throws, caught. Broken tackle by Deebo Samuel. Runs for first down, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
He is gone.
San Francisco!
What an absolute beast, Deebo Samuel.
Oh, man. Greg Papa and Tim Ryan with the call. KNBR. There's so many stars on the Niners and superstars on the Niners. I've long thought Deebo Samuel is one of those people that's he's in my superstar club. And if you look at the Niners bump in the road this season, it neatly coincides with Deebo Samuel out of the lineup. He's such a devastating jack of all trades, and we saw it again in Philadelphia where Samuel scored 3 touchdowns, the star of a dominant offensive performance for Kyle Shanahan's offense and a 42-19 win over the Eagles. That's just the second loss of the season for Philly, and that tightens up the top of the NFC picture considerably. Greg, the game started in one place.
Yep.
And then once San Francisco kind of got things calmed down, the whole game changed.
Yeah, the first quarter was completely dominated by Philadelphia. They had 7 first downs to only 6 plays for the 49ers, 124 yards to -6. And then after that, the 49ers put together what was really one of the best offensive performances of the season by any team. And zooming out, I think it really brings into focus this matchup, 49ers offense versus Eagles defense specifically, because that's where I'm concerned about this Eagles team. Their linebackers have been poor all year. The safeties up and down, and Shanahan just put a big circle on those linebackers, and he kept putting them in conflict, and their tackling was poor, and it was Kittle, and it was Samuel, and it was Ayuk, and it was Purdy on some early third downs being very calm and making good throws. And this Eagles defense, 17th in DVOA coming into today. To me, it is a season-long issue. And once again, they get outgained by 95-plus yards. That's 5 straight games that's happened.
That is wild. And it's like this is a matchup situation, too, because I'm with you. We're going to see these guys playing again. And for the Niners to start, well,
we're going to be cheated.
There's like a confluence
of
these teams, though.
As football fans, I want to feel like we got cheated if these teams somehow don't meet again, and hopefully the NFC title game, or at the very least the divisional place. We got to get these guys back in the same field.
Yeah, you throw Dallas in there too. I mean, I just think to start the way they started, and you're wondering, did the Eagles just have this team's number? And to turn around with these long Shanahan-esque touchdown drives, 6 touchdowns in a row, clock chewing, high yardage, multi-play situations where it's like every game, someone else steps up and plays the star for San Francisco. And this version of Deebo Samuel, when you have Trent Williams back in the lineup, it just makes it impossible to figure out how to defend them.
Right. You mentioned it coincided with Deebo being out, and that's totally fair. But Trent Williams is the guy, I feel like.
Yeah.
He's to me, a first ballot type of Hall of Fame type guy who's still playing at a high level. And when they got going early and they were down 6-0 and Philadelphia went 0 for 2 in the red zone, settling for field goals, they did it by going left. It was running left behind Trent Williams. And I also think about a play to start the second half. They did so well going into halftime, a 4-minute drive that killed the clock, didn't give Philadelphia a chance to score coming back, and then a 4-minute drive out of halftime. And there was just no pressure on Purdy for the most part on those throws. And I think of a 3rd and 7 to start that drive coming out of halftime, which is an out route to Ayuk to the opposite hash. And you don't think of Purdy in terms of his arm strength or anything, but that was a real deal pro throw. He had a nice run in the red zone where he bounced off the tackler. It was a great day out of him too. Like, it's pretty rare that, a quarterback gets 314 yards on 27 attempts, 4 touchdowns. And he does feel like the 3rd or 4th person that you talk about on this team, but it was really just perfect.
Isn't that life for Purdy?
Right. It's perfect
Yes.
for everyone. Shio Kapadia put that this was the 2nd best EPA per drive performance by any team all year, which makes sense. They went 6 straight touchdowns and then finished the game after that.
I gotta give us a little bit of credit because I think as a group we were kind of on this as a possibility with the Eagles living dangerously these last few weeks and the Niners looking for that revenge, playing at a high level, being in a place where they kind of needed the win, and there seemed like an opportunity for this. Mark, I think you locked it up.
I did.
Good job there. I almost
confidence.
came with you.
Yeah.
And I would have been safe in that spot too. And so you just gotta give the Niners a ton of credit. And they're, like I said, a lot of bad blood here between these two teams. We'll get into what happened with the director of security in a little bit. But for them to put them on them that way with the 6 straight scores, and I think you can't win a game in the first quarter, but you can lose one. You could let a game really sneak away, and you look at the way the game started. Greg mentioned that Eagles went red zone, field goal early. They also, the Niners' first possession, -2 yards, their second possession, -4 yards, and they're facing a 3rd and 3 in their third possession, and Purdy connects with Kittle to move the chains. They're facing a 3rd and 1 a few plays later. It's Purdy again.
And that's where he was so calm in the pocket, just kind of waiting for Deebo to get open on a 3rd and 1 is very good.
He hit Samuel for 13 yards, and once they kind of got the crowd a little bit taken out of it and they got calmed down, they just started rolling. I mean, that's a sign of a championship team, and we're not going to go back, and Eagles fans don't want to hear it, and the Niners fans, it wouldn't help them anyway. I kind of think the Niners were the team last year in the NFC, and the way it played out in the NFC title game was heartbreaking for them and their fan base. This was an announcement to the Eagles, like, this is us at full strength, and you don't want to see us in January. Let's see what happens.
Right, because the 49ers defense got more pressure on Hurts than vice versa. Now, sometimes I feel like Hurts left the pocket when it was clean and just held it forever and wanted to make a play. And it was back to a little bit of what we saw from Hurts. I don't think their offense was bad today. They finished with 19 points, which is disappointing, but they moved the ball. They didn't have a ton of possessions either. He almost had 300 yards, but no running game at all. And then Hurts just not feeling like comfortable going to his first read. Not a lot in rhythm for them. And so give Charvarius Ward and some of the other defensive backs credit for that.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's so easy to magnify the Niners offense and talk about how versatile they are and all their stars, but it's like their defensive front is growing more powerful, and like they gave up 2.6 yards per carry to an Eagles team that has been hot and cold on offense in some ways, but they were able to lean on their ground game heavily early in the year, and today they couldn't at all. And I think to go do this in Philadelphia, which is one of the nastier places to play, and come out from the West Coast, it's like this is a statement operation by the Niners. And stop telling me that Brock Purdy is so far down in this MVP race. It annoys me. It annoys me because I don't know what else he needs to do. I don't know what else he needs to do.
Here's the thing and I'm with you. Fundamentally, I'm with you. Like, he needs more credit. Also, like, I think Christian McCaffrey deserves real MVP, a real look. And this
he had 133 yards in this game. We haven't even mentioned him yet.
Yeah, it was like for him, that's a quiet. But he was, every time they kind of needed a play, he made a play. He had a couple runs where he just showed the best footwork of any running back in the league. Just a brilliant offense. And you could tell when they had a nice sideline shot of Shanahan. Purdy, I thought Ayuk kind of bailed him out a little bit on the play, the short touchdown pass to get them going. And you saw
Ayuk is on fire.
You saw Shanahan like pump his fist on the sideline, and like they were off and running, and it was just another show of Shanahan's might. So, you know what? Let's do this game on the NFL Plus on Monday.
Yeah,
game of the week.
We've tilted towards the closest game of the week. Sometimes this has a meaning in a very different way.
Now, would we do game of the week if Big Dom was not involved?
Listen, Big Dom is someone who I think we need to have long conversations about. It was made clear to me from Sean Kelly that Big Dom, the director of security for the Eagles, is a folk hero in Philadelphia, and apparently his skirmish with Dre Greenlaw, that led to Greenlaw suspension, and the head of security for the Eagles being escorted from the side off the sideline, which is funny. That I was a little bit worried. I got to be honest with you. That was going to spark some type of magical moment, and then we were going to have to deal with Bradley Cooper jumping up and down and leading Dom chants and all that stuff. But it didn't happen that way.
It didn't, and this was, like it's not the ironic nickname where they call a very large person tiny, like back in the 30s or 40s.
That old move, yeah.
He literally is just a giant guy, and they call him Big Dom, and they should.
I'm not. Now he's going to become. He would have become an even bigger folk hero. People love him. Andy Reid loved him too. He called him my big Italian son back in the day. Like, I think that was on Chris Law's podcast. I saw him tweet that out, and people loved him. But Big Dom ultimately, kind of got skated in terms of the broadcast. Like, let's calm down, Big Dom. I get why Kyle Shanahan was pretty fired up afterwards. He was.
I won't hear this Big Dom slander.
He does not need
on this show.
He does not need to be involved. And Nick Sirianni actually agreed and said, Dom should not have been involved there either. Didn't approve of his actions and kind of baited. He did a good job baiting Dre Greenlaw into getting ejected, but I'm not sure he needed to be ejected when some big guy on the sideline is pointing a finger at his face. Get out of there.
The Eagles have problems after this game. I feel like Big Dom's low on the list. And there it is. If you watch it on YouTube, they got to figure out how to stop a team, an elite team, because they have not been. And guess what? They get I think the Cowboys next week. And all of a sudden, everything's up for grabs.
NFC East will be up for grabs. The number one seed.
Spicy.
It is delicious.
All right. Let's see. Let's move on. Let's go to another game that looked like it was going to be a blowout, then got tight to the Superdome.
Two tight ends set for the Lions. Goff takes, fakes the give, goes end around. Now they flip it on the second back coming around. That is Jameson Williams inside the 15, inside the 10, dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Oh.
A little razzle-dazzle to number 9 who did a swan dive into the end zone. The Lions have extended their lead.
These are the great. That's Dan Miller, of course, and Lomas Brown at WXYT. These are all amazing athletes that we watch every Sunday. But sometimes you see a play and you see a player and you're like, oh, he looks different than the other guys. Jameson Williams, we see you, bud.
He soared through the air there.
Barely, but not even just the soar, just the speed in which he cut through those 20 yards.
You can't tell me he did not run 33 miles per hour on that. That was ridiculous.
I swear to God, if he was not, and Eric, if there's a way to track this down, if he is not above 21 miles per hour, I'm going to be sick to my stomach for the entire next-gen industry.
Rightfully so.
The Lions got that well-timed TD from their first-round mystery man, and another huge performance from breakout tight end Sam Laporta in a 33-28 win over the Saints. Mark, Detroit jumped ahead early, nearly let it slip away, but the ability to make big plays when it mattered, that was the difference.
They did. They obviously, I think Detroit, and we've identified that there are certain weaknesses that they carry into their postseason journey. But at the same time, it's exciting to see what you got from Jameson Williams, and Sam Laporta is emerging as a rock-solid star tight end who is becoming a bigger and bigger part of their offense. They jumped out to a 21-0 lead in the first 7 minutes. Derek Carr threw a terrible interception on the first offensive play of the game. Detroit popped it in a couple plays later. He had a rough fumble in the fourth quarter, and that was when they were climbing back into this game. Derek Carr got whacked at one point. looked really banged up, left with a shoulder injury, a back injury. I got thrown into the concussion portal. And, at one point he's getting booed.
I hope everyone's happy.
Well, no, you know what?
Derek Carr is out of your life once and for all.
I know.
Concussion portal. That sounds dark.
It does sound dark. But, you...
Protocol.
You, have been defending him. And I had to say that at one point, with the Superdome, which was massively filled with Lions fans. So it's that's telling me that a lot of Saints fans are about as frustrated as possible in selling their tickets. But he's getting booed relentlessly because it was a rough. The way this whole thing started, it was not a good look for Derek Carr.
Like when Taysom Hill's on the field, they then boo when Carr comes back.
Yeah,
so
Carr was
tough
it was
spot.
It was, and you just saw a look on his face on the sideline. But at one point, he's getting lustily booed by this crowd, and he'd hit 15 straight passes.
And that
then
first
he's injured.
interception was just a drop. It was not on him, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the problem with the whole thing with the whole experience here is becoming the whole Saints team feels like they're floating away to me. And it starts with the coach. It's the quarterback situation.
He's like the face of it, and he's become the main target.
Absolutely.
And he absolutely has played a role in what's happening here, Mark, and I'd love to hear more, although I'm still trying to wrap my head around Next Gen Stats report here that Jameson Williams reached a top speed of 20.7.
Okay, here's
miles
why
per
though,
hour?
because you only get
What?
Give
me
those
a what?
you only get those top speeds if you run for 25 straight yards.
What?
You know what I mean? You can't, no one can get it in the first 15 yards. You know what I mean?
You can't tell me you watch that play in real time. He's not going 60 miles an hour.
It's questionable.
And when he jumped, and then the celebration, multi-part, he only has a couple plays every week, but they're among the most exciting plays in the NFL. I love me some Jameson Williams
But no,
right now.
all right, let's watch some Jameson Williams post game.
One-way play. We already know what's going on when Waymo gets the ball.
Whammo.
I just got to get it. Let's go. Touchdown. We win. Lions win. Let's go. 9-3. Let's go.
He's such a Greg guy.
I gotta start calling him Waymo.
I don't know. I thought it was J-Mo.
I thought it was J-Mo, but I guess he's Waymo.
Mark, getting back to the game, and along the lines of what you're saying with Carr, and Jameis Winston comes in, and they have a chance to steal this game, and then he's scattershotting the ball all over the place. So just be careful, Saints fans, of who you're getting after, because it's a lot of people that aren't getting jobs.
Well, they're not the sum of their parts, and I don't think I think it's pretty clear to most Saints fans that Jameis Winston's not going to give you a completely different experience. I thought this game mattered a lot for Jared Goff, who was money when it mattered in the final couple minutes. It was 3rd and 8. They're up 33-28 with 2+ to go, and Goff hit Sam Laporta, beautiful throw, and then on that same drive on 3rd and 9 to ice this thing, to not allow the Saints back in when it was so close, hit Josh Reynolds. And it's like this was a game where Jared Goff returned to the player that we've seen, not critical mistakes down the stretch. And for the Lions, had they somehow crumbled here, we'd be asking a lot of questions. Now they're 9-3 for the first time in the Super Bowl era.
Right, a big win on the road. A
Wow.
game like I expected.
That's quite a stat. 9-3 for the first time in 57 years.
The Lions.
They're going to have a lot.
It's been
They're
a dark organizational journey for
They're going to have a lot of these little numbers. And this game kind of went like I thought, where just there would be messiness. These two teams, the Lions defense is a problem enough that there's going to be messy moments.
I was nervous, Greg.
You were nervous. You jumped on my lock, but you shouldn't have been nervous because they always
Give
get
it to
right
us twice.
in the end.
Give it to us once. No, give it to us
The vibes were right. Give it to me again.
I got to say one thing real quick. I thought that was going to be a very annoying aspect to today, and you guys barely even talked about it. So good. You
Why?
made The Office more
Why?
enjoyable.
What were you expecting?
Just a lot of you guys
Like a block party
yeah,
because
like
the Lions
dozy-doing
won?
around
I mean,
the
no,
office.
I'm not going to honk too much about the Saints losing here, but that 3rd and 9 you just mentioned, so the Laporta catch before that, nails. He has a chance, Laporta, to set the all-time record for yardage as a rookie. I mean, he went 9 for 140
Big
today.
time.
That's the record, I believe, for a single game for a rookie tight end, and now he's got a chance to break the season record. He's got a pretty good chance. I think he needs a couple hundred yards to go in the last 5 games. He's ridiculous. But that throw on 3rd and 9 to Reynolds, that play call and then Goff's execution of it was as gutsy to me as any 4th down call that Campbell's made all season. That was as gutsy as going for it on your own 32, because the Saints had no timeouts there. The Cowboys were in a very similar spot actually on Thursday night when they went for that touchdown late. A little different situation, but if all the Lions had to do there was run the ball, and they get to punt with a minute left up a touchdown, And instead, they call a pass on 3rd and 9. And I'm thinking that's one of those plays where you tell Goff, like, if it's not there, just eat it, and the clock will run, and we have like a 95% chance to win.
Yeah.
And there's pressure early. Goff actually takes a hit on that play. He's moving left to get out of the way. It's like second reaction Goff play. And when he throws that ball, I'm thinking, no, this is such a bad idea. And he puts a dime on Reynolds while moving left, and Reynolds makes a great catch with it too and run after the catch to get the first down. This was a really high-level play by Goff and Reynolds and a ton of guts by the coaching staff and a lot of trust. They really do trust Jared Goff an incredible amount in these big.
And he's shown them outside of the past couple games where, he deserves that trust. There was one moment in this, and it wasn't really like it wasn't the network's decision to do this, but Kamara raced out of bounds and ran into the legs of a chain gang dude.
Yeah.
And the camera was sort of fixed. It was the camera guy was sort of fixed on the whole situation. And it was uncomfortable to watch because it was just not an athlete, but a normal man just writhing on the ground in a way that it was worse than stuff.
It was a catastrophic lower leg injury, as I understand.
It was a dislocated kneecap or something.
Jeff Duncan of the Times-Picayune reported that he was at University Hospital in New Orleans. He was going to have surgery.
It was uncomfortable to watch.
So we wish him well.
It's when we've been on the games in London on the sideline, there's always this underbelly of concern that a football is going to hit me in the head or a player's going to smash into me and I'll just be killed.
Right. That would be in some ways a pathetic way to go, but also kind of cool. It would be pathetic. We're all just specks on this universe, and at least that would be a memorable death.
It'd be pathetic.
Oh, how's your buddy Mark doing? Oh, died, killed on the sideline. By Derrick Henry in Week 5. He gone. Notable. He gone. All right, let's head to Houston, where the Texans were looking to keep their playoff push going, and the Broncos were looking to keep a winning streak intact.
3rd and goal from the 8. Wilson in the gun. One back. P-Ride. Wilson gets the snap. Wilson chased. Wilson escapes the sack. Throws left side of the end zone.
Yes!
It's intercepted.
Yes!
The Texans have it.
Yes
Jimmy
from
Ward.
the Texans.
Yes.
Houston's going to win. 9 seconds to go.
Yes, Mark Vandermeer and Andre Ware with a yes! K-I-L-T.
Andre Ware, that's awesome.
Yeah. The fun and surprising Texans season has been defined by the play of wonderkind QB Bryce Young. Yikes, Freudian slip. CJ Stroud. On Sunday, we were reminded of the huge gains made on the other side of the ball. Jimmy Ward's end zone INT saved the day for the home team and a 22 win over the Broncos, whose winning streak comes to an end, and the Texans keep themselves in the playoff mix. Interesting game. All right, let's start with the big injury news because it's terrible. Because Tank Dell on the Texans from in close touchdown run, he's blocking, he gets rolled up on, and he's got a broken leg, and he's out for the year, and he's going to injured reserve, and it's hard to understate how important or overstate how important he is to this team and what he has meant to C.J. Stroud and what has been a kind of a historic rookie season. When you have a quarterback having a historic rookie season, there's usually a wingman that's helping him make it happen, and that has very much been Tank Dell. So losing him for the balance of the season is devastating. That said, this is not a one-trick pony act, this offense, and on the day that they lose Tank Dell for the year, Nico Collins goes 9 for 191 and a touchdown. They still aren't getting anything from the running game, but Stroud was able to find a way. And most importantly, as I said at the top here, it was the defense because you had, like I said, you had the interception to seal it. That was one of 3 picks by Russell Wilson. The other 2 were by Derek Stingley, their number 3 overall pick 2 years ago. And Will Anderson had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss. So you have all these guys when they were the worst team in the league the last few years, and they're starting to bank these high-level draft picks. It's really looking like they're hitting on these guys, and you're seeing, with DeMeco Ryans leading the way, progress on that side, and that makes the Texans dangerous.
Yeah, I think there's a connective DNA to what DeMeco Ryans was able to do in San Francisco before he got this job, where there's player development. Will Anderson's growth has he was a fascinating player today and wreaking all sorts of havoc. You bring in Jimmy Ward, who obviously they knew each other from San Francisco, and he's making big plays. And Derek Stingley, yes, CJ Stroud is the biggest story in Houston, but this defense can make a difference too. And I kind of just like the way this whole team building situation has gone for Texas pretty quickly.
Right. Jimmy Ward and Stingley, you look at when they were in the lineup and when they weren't, and that kind of coincides with them playing much better. Now, their offensive line has also gotten healthier, and I think that's helped too in terms of the pass protection for Stroud. But they are box office every week. That is now, and they showed a graphic during the game, like heartbreaking losses for the Texans that they had suffered. Their last 3 losses were all heartbreaking. And I was looking at it and I'm thinking, well, that's true, but like every time they win, it's a heartbreaking loss for the opponent.
Right.
That is now 8 straight games that have been decided by 1 score, and I'm just eyeballing them. And I think all of them were like the last drive, where like someone has the ball and they either win the game or they don't win the game with the ball in the last seconds. And that's just, it makes sense that they're a young team. And I think they got to be so excited about the Stingley-Anderson combo, as well said, Dan. To start it out.
Thank you, Greg. So you have that side of things, and the reason, and again, they just lost their most important offensive player besides Stroud, so I'm not going to come down on the offense too hard, but they really struggled to put this game away. 3rd down, they were 4 for 16 in this game, and it allowed Denver to hang around even on an imperfect day from their offense. So Russell Wilson, we just talked about him. Greg is pumping his fist right now because Wilson, after going...
I didn't say a word.
No interceptions during that
stats.
5-game winning streak. He throws 3 interceptions in this game, and it's kind of frustrating. I know Denver fans are feeling it because the interception that ends the game, he makes a really athletic play to escape the rush, and if he kind of sets himself a little bit and takes an extra beat, he probably doesn't throw that ball up for grabs because he had some time, but I think he was rushing after the hurry, and it led to the interception. So those turnovers were killer. He also had a touchdown pass and a touchdown run and did move the offense, especially in the second half, but it wasn't enough. Arrow up on Cortland Sutton, by the way.
I feel like every week he's doing something
he's really,
amazing.
and I think I had a tweet earlier today that he's really kind of arrived, but he had like a 1,200-yard season a few years ago.
One of Wes's favorite players thought he was kind of an all-pro that was buried on a team that it depressed his stats, even though he was just incredible.
But he's kind of back now. That version of him is back. He had his 9th touchdown catch of the season, so that was the positive. Denver and Houston still in the playoff mix, but that was a big win for the Texans.
I think like Russell
and
Wilson,
a big loss in the injury.
Wilson on the ground last 3 or 4 weeks has been looking a little bit more like the old Russell Wilson.
Had a big 4th down pickup. They're 6-6. Texans 7-5. We'll see if that tiebreaker ends up mattering, but even just the fact that the Texans get a game up and have a fairly favorable schedule moving forward is big. James Palmer pointed out Russell Wilson 3.8 yards per attempt in play when they weren't doing play action, in 13 when it was, and I think that points out a little bit of what I've been just saying with Russell Wilson, which is that like they're still like kind of a limited offense. They can't just like drop back to pass and win. That's not what they're doing. It's like play action. It's like scheming up types of plays. So
yeah, I mean nobody's pounding the table for MVP for Russ Wilson.
No.
There was like one Broncos fan, but you don't want to be.
Well, you don't want to listen too
like
closely to
some
Broncos
blog.
fans.
It was like this is better. It's like
MVP. They're suggesting.
I don't know. Yes, I saw one.
That feels slightly disconnected from reality.
I think he's probably a big wins as a QB stat guy would be my guess on that play. One last thing before we move on. We need this happened a couple of times that I saw in games I watched today. Happened in the Meadowlands too against the Falcons when they blew a play dead on a strip of Trevor Siemian that would have went for a touchdown. They overturned it on review from an incomplete pass, but if they just let the play out, it's a touchdown and a game-icing touchdown for Atlanta. In this game, the Texans hit Samaje Perine for no gain. They took the ball away, ran it in for a TD, but officials ruled forward progress had stopped. A replay showed it that was you could very easily have gone the other way on that. And it's just, come on. Bad officiating
slow
day,
down
by the
with
way.
these whistles.
I feel like I was watching a lot of bad officiating in the games I watched today.
Right.
I don't know about you guys.
And the Texans' first touchdown was after the Alex Singleton roughing, which was pretty soft. Like where it was that was a 4th down turnover that it kept the drive going because he like lightly pushed C.J. Stroud. Although if I was Texans fans, I would love the fact that Stroud like immediately got right back in his face, and that's why I was surprised like Singleton just got the penalty and Stroud didn't at all. But it was good. I liked it.
I would say if you're an official and it's pouring
smart.
rain, or it looked like it was hailing at one point down in Tampa, like I think it'd be, I would do a lesser job.
Not a problem at NRG Stadium, if that's what it's. Is it still NRG? I don't. They flipped that one
It's a
so
dome.
many times.
So you're saying they wouldn't try as hard if the weather was bad?
I don't know, but try as hard. It's like go do anything just as good if it's freezing rain and you're like soaking wet.
It's your job. Be professional. You know what? If
It
this
sounds
was
like a
open
terrible
air,
job to begin with.
if this is open air and the rain is pouring in,
we'd be professional. But this is what we do.
stays
Yeah.
at a level
Absolutely.
of greatness. All right, let's take a break and we will march on. All right, welcome back to Around the NFL, the flagship program, week 13. It's time now for the Sunday Drive presented by the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander. It is Nick Shook time, so let's head to Nashville.
2:34 to go in overtime. Second down and goal at the 4. Minshew out of the gun. Shotgun snap. Looks to his right. In the end zone throws Michael Pittman. Touchdown! Touchdown, Michael Pittman! Ball game! I-N-D-Y! Michael Pittman into the end zone from Gardner Minshew. And the Colts win 31-28 in Nashville. Yes, sir!
Oh, the Bongos are out.
Oh.
Matt Taylor and Rick Venturi with the call WFNI. Gardner Minshew threw a 4-yard touchdown pass to Michael Pittman with 2:31 to play in overtime, allowing the Colts to escape Nashville with a 31-28 win over the Titans. That's 4 straight wins for the Colts to keep them in the playoff race in the AFC. The Colts had needed that touchdown because Nick Folk booted a 46-yarder earlier in OT, but they would not be denied. Another man who will never be denied in all things, but especially in the gym. The pipe. 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 Game turned on that block punt, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Got the Colts back in the game. Titans got out to an early lead, kind of had a little bit of control of the game. Colts couldn't do all that much offensively. You get the block punt, everything swings. Suddenly the Colts are stringing together a good drive. They take the lead. They get it to overtime. Titans fight back. This game had everything, guys. This game had pretty much every element you'll expect from an NFL game. There was all kinds of wackiness. You had 2 former backups, now starters, playing pretty good football. A classic meeting between the Colts and Titans. This used to decide the division. It's not going to decide the division this year, but it was worthy of those types of stakes. And Colts come away a winner. And I don't know if you know, but just so you're certain, in case the radio call didn't get it through to your head.
Yeah.
He got it. He's got it.
He got it. You can watch games all season and not, I would imagine we won't see any other game where a punt is blocked twice in a row by the same team, which knocks out the punter and then brings in Nick Folk to punt, who, by the way, punted fine.
Sure.
Let's just save a roster spot and have Nick
Also, you
Folk.
have Tannehill as the
punter.
holder.
Yeah, he didn't have a
not
great
as
day.
good.
Which
Not as
that may have cost them because they missed the extra point with Tannehill, the laces. It's like, okay, can we calm down with the laces and hit an extra point? What do I know?
You're out of your element, Donnie.
And then more importantly, in the same game that we have 2 straight block punts, we have a pick 2, which is one of my favorite things that can possibly
super underrated.
happen.
Yeah.
If this game did not involve the Colts Titans, it would absolutely be our game of the week.
That's fair.
Maybe we should rethink it. I'm just saying there was a lot going on in this
Triangle.
game.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shooky.
Yeah, they kind of are. I mean, Gardner Minshew had a strong day. He didn't make any mistakes. He had a beautiful touchdown pass to Alec Pierce, who I think is kind of coming on as of late. He's a guy who I've kind of liked. And you look at the receiving core and you think, well, they don't have all that much talent. But if a guy like Pierce can produce like he did today, then suddenly they'll be much better and be more than just Michael Pittman, who also had a strong day. But it's a Colts team that's hanging around, guys. I mean, we know who the Titans are. They went through a stretch the last couple of weeks where they couldn't move the ball at all. And it was nice to see Will Levis get some time to throw. And because Derrick Henry found some success on the ground before he exited with an injury, Levis was able to operate the offense. And you kind of see what Greg was all high on Levis for like a month ago or however long ago it was. Like, it's there. It is there. I totally see it. But once Henry leaves, that offense kind of shrinks, gives the Colts an opening. And again, like I said, the Colts are hanging around. They're 7-5. They're probably the ugliest 7-5 team in the league right now outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then again, you have to take them seriously from here on out, especially when they find ways to win this game. Because for a while there, it looked like they were going to drop one to a division rival.
And they're not going away if they play like this and if they're coached like this, because they've got the Bengals, Joe Burrow free Bengals next week, a Steelers team that's going to be playing with their backup quarterback, a Falcons team that's beatable, the Raiders who are beatable, and then that final game with the Texans. So it's like we talked a lot about the Colts last week, and I hear it, like they're not always exciting to watch. But I do think that Shane Steichen is a difference-making type of coach, and I look at the overall job he's done this year. I'm really impressed. And you get this version of Gardner Minshew, not the one that's throwing 3 interceptions, and you can win.
Right, that was his best throw of the game in overtime, and I want to give them credit because they're just clutch. They always find a way here. And then I look and like the offense, I think had a total of 14 yards on their last 5 possessions of the in the fourth quarter. So their offense was not clutch in the fourth quarter, but their defense made just enough plays to get them to overtime, and then Minshew makes the play.
And it's just like, and that the Colts are now 3-0 when Minshew does not throw an interception, which he does do that a lot. So, but when he plays the clean version of a Minshew game, it's just like the Colts are a reminder, and I hope teams are learning from this in this very sloppy quarterback season of 2023. Your season doesn't have to be over because your starting quarterback got hurt. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
For many teams, it is because they don't prioritize or invest in the position beyond the starter. And Minshew was out there for anybody, and the Colts said, okay, we like having that guy behind our rookie. And when the rookie disappears at the end of September, they were still okay because the rookie was still figuring some things out. So it wasn't even like you were going from up here to down here, and Minshew somehow has to find a balance. Like he came in playing, I mean, he's a lower level, he's a high backup, lower rung starter, but that's enough in a division like this and a team, like you're saying, credit to Steichen and the whole operation. They've been able to win a lot of these like coin flip games, and they're in the mix as a result.
I mean, if you can have a fringe starter as your backup, you're in a different place than teams that, with a lack of creativity, stick someone behind your starter, like in Cincinnati. And if anything happened to Josh Allen in Buffalo, where it's like your season is lost if you stick in a guy who's just a ham and egger.
Yeah, but I think it also is kind
good
of
ham and egg reference.
They're indicative of how strong your coaching staff is, because we've seen this happen over the last few years, and you've seen it in this season where a team like San Francisco in previous years had to go through a number of different quarterbacks and yet found a way to still be kind of competitive. Or this year with the Colts and how Shane Steichen's doing such a great job. He'd be a coach of the year candidate if DeMeco Ryans didn't exist, I think. Or you look at the Browns and how they've had to go through all these things with their quarterback situation. And Kevin Stefanski's been up and down in that department, but yet they've stayed afloat.
Good.
It really is. The silver lining of a messy quarterback season is you get a better evaluation of how strong coaching staff is and how well they're equipped to handle adversity. And that sometimes that can be a fun little element.
He is a candidate. They invite 3 coaches to NFL honors. And
put him on the list.
He's certainly got a chance to be one of those guys.
Don't invite 2 coaches who aren't going to win.
I don't know how that works. Maybe they don't. But they definitely announced
invite all the
3
coaches.
Yeah, but if you don't invite multiple coaches, then you've sold. You got to.
I do like the idea of Shane Steichen's like, I could be coach of the year if only DeMeco Ryans didn't exist. It's like cue Josh Mankiewicz on Dateline with a corker of an episode.
They got the same record, and one's coaching with Minshew, so you might have a point. But it's one of those seasons
I'm insinuating murder, Greg.
Yeah, everything goes right for them. That you get 2 block punts. Jeffrey Simmons leaves with an injury, and Derrick Henry leaves with an injury in the same game.
Tough. And the day Henry went over 100 with 2 scores. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Shooky, thank you, buddy. Easy
Thanks
one
for
this
having me,
week.
guys.
Hey, no more buys in a couple of weeks, so we're going to need you down the stretch.
I'll be getting my back ready to carry the load, or at least some sort of the load.
You don't skip back day.
No, I don't. I definitely don't.
Shooky, thank you, buddy. All right, let's keep moving. I think we had a good Thursday show, guys. I keep looking at some of the results, and it's syncing up with our commentary going into these games. We looked at this Dolphins-Commanders game and said, you know what? These fish, it's been a while since they gave us some explosive fun. And it was explosive. Well, it's explosive fun for the Dolphins and explosive something else for the Commanders and their fans. Let's head to Landover.
Hill in motion, goes to the right, looking for him. Deep down the field, and he got him! What a movement by Hill to catch that football. He was turned inside, Joe. The ball was hit, thrown to the outside, and he weaved his way back. Another bomb. Tua to Hill, touchdown.
Jimmy Cephalo, WBGG with the call. Tyreek Hill had 2 more touchdowns in 5 catches for $157. That was basically in a half a word. And he and the Miami Dolphins absolutely hammered the Washington Commanders 45-15 to remain comfortably atop the AFC East, and they're 9-3 for the first time since 2001. How about that, Greggy? This was it. This was that dominant Miami offense, and of course, if they're having a dominant day, Tyreek Hill is all over it.
Yeah, I wanted to be dazzled. I said it's been a while since we had one of those Tua games, and we got it. And yes, Tyreek Hill is ridiculous, and that is such a great adjustment on the ball, though, where maybe they weren't on the same page exactly, and he gets the long touchdown. But Tua creates math problems with these receivers. Those 2 long touchdowns that he threw were in getting rid of the ball in 2.13 seconds and 2.25 seconds, which is so fast, and yet the ball is 50 yards down the field, and Hill is catching up to it. So it's timing, it's footwork. I think Tua has really improved at resetting and making the first pass rusher miss. That wasn't maybe the case on those touchdowns, but there were many plays today where Washington actually did get pressure quickly, and he just does a little shoulder shake, or he moves to the side, and then he resets. It's very Tom Brady-ish just in terms of the pocket presence of just quickly moving and then making a nice throw. So I'm all aboard. The Tyreek Hill is the MVP right now. I've been saying that for a while. He's at 93 for 141 and 12. But this was absolutely also a great Tua performance, and it was nice to see.
We needed that. I mean, Tyreek Hill is just doing this every week. Part of it is the opponent. Washington has given up 105 points in 3 games. And while I think Sam Howell has been a visually intriguing player to watch, everything is falling apart. And it's clear, the coach is going to be gone, the GM is going to be gone. I think Howell deserves a chance to stay as your future starter. I think he's shown a lot, but he also is not protected well, walks into a lot of his own sacks. And when you get the version of him throwing a pick 6 today, lightning. Now, I think it's a good sign that without Jalen Phillips, the Dolphins defense played another good game.
They got so much pressure on Howell. I thought Howell played well in this game, which will sound crazy because he had 127 yards and an interception. The interception, to me, is not on the quarterback. It was a great read by Andrew Van Ginkel, a play that they, through film study, he just read it and picked it off. Van Ginkel had a sack, a pick 6, and almost blocked a punt. And then, Sessler and Agba getting pressure. They were all over Howell, who had a couple rushing touchdowns, and he only took 3 sacks in this game. This is one of those where he could have taken about 8 sacks in this game.
You can't give somebody a stat for almost doing something.
I'm just saying it was.
You can't include it amongst a pack
fair.
of stats.
I just mean Van Ginkel was everywhere, and there was a moment right after a pick 6 and a sack that he then almost blocked the punt. And I was just like,
nice
wow,
little run.
That was great.
I think we now have Ron Rivera. He has now graduated to the Frank Reich Dead Man Walking Club. It's no longer a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And there is certainly a case to be made here. And everyone out there wants Eric Bieniemy to get a shot as a head coach with his resume, to give Bieniemy, 4 or 5 weeks.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think you just let him go, because I think he's been a big
just give him a
asset
shot.
for them.
See what happens with the team. See how they play with him, and see how the offense operates with him kind of having more responsibility. Now, I might look smart if this happens on tomorrow. Would not shock me, but they also just let go of the defensive coordinator, and that was kind of the bloodletting that I thought would take Rivera to the finish line. And yet games like these make you think, what is the point?
They're also they're entering their bye week too, so
another reason why it could happen. Okay,
it could, and there was a moment where Bieniemy was kind of barking at Howell on the side. I just don't know. It's not a good position for Bieniemy to be in either. I don't think it helps anyone. But Rivera's defense. The Dolphins only had 9 drives in this game, and they put up 45 points. So it was rather
that was
rather
what they
efficient.
Needed. And A-Chain came back, scored a couple times. That was a kind of right game.
That was a nice performance.
I had not thought of it in roughly 25 years, but on NFL primetime on ESPN back in the 90s, Eric Bieniemy was a running back.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris Berman would call him sleeping with Bieniemy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
the Julia Roberts vehicle.
One of his best.
Yeah.
There's a Mauler in Tecmo Bowl.
No, sleeping with Bieniemy that's a classic.
Eric sleeping with Bieniemy. Good stuff. All right, here we go. We move forward because that's the only thing we can do. Across the sidewalk, Marc Sessler was not in attendance, and maybe that was a good thing.
Still has 7 seconds to work with as they set up. From the 30, 2nd and 1 from the pocket. He deals down the seam. It's caught
Stroke it.
at midfield. Out the
Oh,
left
that was
side.
pretty.
Puka Nacua to the crib. Touchdown LA.
To the crib. You know we love our guy. Davey Long with the call.
Great guy, great announcer.
Oh, yeah. Matthew Stafford threw 3 touchdown passes. And that guy, Puka Nacua, the first ever Rams rookie wide receiver to cross 1,000 yards in a season. It's December 3rd. How about that?
Wow.
The Rams keep winning. That's 3 in a row. Sneaky 3-game winning streak. 36-19 over the Browns at SoFi. Mark, that final score is misleading because we were sitting next to each other. The Browns have a chance to tie this game, I believe, in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And then what?
Midway through, down 1, right?
Yeah, and you're one of the most reliable kickers in the league, misses an extra point, and things go south from there. And
Dustin Hopkins.
I think this feels like a lot of Browns games we're going to get down the stretch because you had Joe Flacco, and I'll say one story for Cleveland is that I would not have been as surprised if we got a version of Joe Flacco that literally was a statue, couldn't move. And
Any fumbles today?
No.
No fumbles.
Threw the ball. He had a
See,
bad
if you
interception.
protect the Stone Age pony, he can do some things.
He also
Yeah.
looked to me refreshed. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna.
He's relaxed.
He's not gonna confuse anyone on the ground. But he didn't look like he looked to me last year with the Jets. I thought he threw the ball outside of the one interception that was so costly. Like threw the ball really well at times, and it's like, oh well, if you had this version of a quarterback play like during this they've been on 4 of them and it's been real up and down. Maybe they win some of these close games, but this is an example of Amari Cooper goes out with an injury. They've got very little else happening, through the air, and they're a patchwork ground game without Nick Chubb, and so it's the amount of mistakes they can make and afford is so narrow unless their defense has one of those games where Myles Garrett has 3 sacks and you're turning the ball over, generating takeaways. And they weren't doing that today. And it's a couple weeks in a row where it's kind of just concerned about the overall journey of this Browns team. I feel like other AFC teams at the bottom of that wild card grid are starting to heat up. Cleveland's going in the other direction, and I don't really think you can rely on Joe Flacco and what's left of this offense to save you.
Well, yeah, midway through the 4th quarter, which is crazy looking at the final score, the Browns score a touchdown. They miss the extra point, but then they get a quick punt from the Rams, and Joe Flacco actually has the ball with 6:51 to go, down 1 point. And at that point, there were a lot of tweets, and I was half watching this game too. There's a lot of drops. I thought Flacco was playing great. Like Tony Grossi saying, this is the best game any quarterback's played for the Browns this season. And then Flacco just forced one. He took a shot that he shouldn't have taken. John Johnson intercepts it, returns it, and suddenly the Rams are rolling. But you can tell me more, Mark, that I was surprised to see the Rams rack up 400 yards almost in this game. And I think Stafford played well, and Puka Nacua is great, and they get the running game going late. But if you had just said, okay, this is an average defense they're playing, they looked like an average defense based on the stats. Did they look like that?
Yes. Because it wasn't the way that the Rams did it a lot through the air. Nacua fried them. They don't have Denzel Ward, and that's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That they really miss him. I think that if you look at Jim Schwartz's defenses historically, they've shined when he's had that shutdown corner, and they're picking on other cornerbacks in this game. And Nacua had 100+ yards because of that play right there, but he had 100+ yards in the first quarter. And then, it looked like he had a nasty injury. It was a rib injury, but came back in. So it's this is a gritty young guy who, when you don't get big numbers from Cooper Kupp, Stafford can lean on him. And it's they found different ways to beat a pretty banged up Browns defense.
Browns didn't force a turnover. The Browns didn't have a sack. A lot of talk about the Browns as a historic defense. That's kind of out the window now. They've been normal for a few weeks now. And I don't know if Myles Garrett's healthy or not, but, that's now a very quiet game in a big spot. And on the other side of the ball, Joe Flacco, he's 6'6", and he's got the howitzer. Even on the Jets last year, if you protected him, he made some plays. He could. So if they can block for him, he cannot play behind a bad offensive line at this stage of his career. But if they block for him, I'm sure he could keep this offense moving. But the defense has to rediscover that spark, or they're going to fade out of this very quickly. The Rams are interesting. This is their first, Greg, 3-game winning streak since their Super Bowl season.
Wow. And they're limiting teams. I think this is 4th straight. They've held opponents under 21 points. The defense, which is so undermanned, gets better and better. Kobe Turner, a rookie, had a really nice game. But I think this was a reminder. Flacco's old, for sure, 38 years old. But it's easy to forget. Matthew Stafford's 35, and he is just next freaking level. There was a play. They hit a couple big plays to Demarcus Robinson in the second half. And there was one where Kyren Williams is coming out of the backfield on a wheel route, and Stafford turns his whole shoulder, and Williams is open, turns his whole shoulder to kind of look at him, doesn't even do a pump fake, but just moves his feet and his shoulders to look at Kyren Williams, gets the safety to bite, and then just throws a total dime behind the safety. On that touchdown to Nakua, that was an audible at the line of scrimmage. Sean McVay did not call that play. And so
awesome.
Stafford's operating at a really, really high level. And that's why they're 6-6. He still is the biggest reason to me that they're 6-6.
You know what? LeBron James and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were both at this game.
Wow. At the football game.
The two highest scoring players in the history of basketball.
But they're basketball players.
I don't know.
Why would they be at the football game?
I don't know. It made no sense to me from that angle. That they're not the same sport.
Doesn't it seem like
we should have heard something by now?
Oh, Eric. Eric, what? I mean, how much more time do I have to buy for you, bud?
I don't know why this is the
football is completely different than basketball.
Now.
I don't know why this is the drop of all the drops that have gotten the most use out of the years.
I don't know.
There was something highly comical about like flying up the Rappaport connection. Like Ian was your guy.
Football's different from basketball.
See,
he has that one
that's
ready.
an NFL insider saying that. So I'm getting.
But I agree. I think we all agree with you. So that's why I was surprised they were even at the football game.
Yeah, I mean, it is illogical.
All right. Speaking of illogical, the Jets for the past 12 years, well, 50.
12.
To the Meadowlands.
Boyle from under center here on 2nd and 9. Play fake to Dalvin Cook. Boyle wants to hang one up for Garrett Wilson, and it's picked. Jesse Bates has got another one. 5th interception of the year for Jesse Bates, and like last week, he read it from center field. And Atlanta celebrates the pick by Bates with 26 seconds to go in the third.
Yes, that right there might be the final throw of Tim Boyle's NFL career. Yes, another benefactor of the Aaron Rodgers Scholarship Fund bit the dust on Sunday, befuddled by the Falcons' defense in an ugly 13-8 win for the NFC South leaders. Desmond Ridder back in the lineup for the second game. He threw a 20-yard touchdown pass to Mecole Pruitt in the second quarter. That was the only touchdown in the game. And that was the only thing that you would really need to beat the Jets, who cannot score touchdowns. So the Falcons, they keep their spot top the NFC South. However, man, if you want to talk yourself into the Falcons, go do it until you're blue in the face. And I'm not going to take anything away from them. They won this game, but I still don't see it with this team. And they could not get the running game going. They really won because how inept the other side of the ball is here.
They're a tough watch, and I'm looking at this drive chart that the Jets had 6 drives that went for less than 6 yards. I mean, and they seem to look at like it every week. And I guess I'd ask you this, like, do you see the team continuing to splinter and fracture, or was this a little bit better?
That's almost too exciting a fate for the Jets at this point. They just stink. They're a bad team. They are now on their third quarterback. Trevor Siemian came in after that Boyle throw and was equally ineffective. It was so, and credit the Falcons defense. Okay, you got to, because, you got to win games in the league. And when the Jets took the field for their last possession, they are down, what are they down? They're down 5 points. And they have the ball with less than 2 minutes to play. They don't have any timeouts, but they have the ball. They just have to go down the field and score a touchdown. There was no one watching this game. There was no one at MetLife Stadium that thought the Jets had any chance to go down the field. They had one completion on the drive to get near, I think, the 40-yard line, and then they just marched backwards and didn't even come close. So the Falcons, as frustrating and up and down as their offense has been this season, and again, you would have liked to see their running game, do better in this game. Their defense has been at times pretty good this year, and against a bad offense like the Jets and weather like this, it was miserable at the Meadowlands. They took advantage of their setup.
Yeah, I think sometimes I think the narrative's been played up too much that the Jets defense is just holding on. Some of those games that they haven't been, pristine. This game, you give up 194 yards. You give up 3 yards per play. You hold the Falcons' running attack, which was outstanding last week, to 90 yards. You keep giving your offense a chance after chance after chance. The Jets' offense had 7 possessions in the second half. They did everything humanly possible. This was kind of the stereotypical Jets game that we've been talking about all years. And now they have the fewest touchdowns of any team through 12 games in 30 years. And I saw this stat from it was I think it was on True Media. I forget who tweeted out. I apologize. But 2 of the top 5 worst games of off-target throws from quarterbacks. So they measure how many throws did you have in the game that gave your receiver no chance to even make the catch. Tim Boyle in this game was, I think, 3rd worst all season, and Trevor Siemian was 5th worst. So it was like they can't find a quarterback who could just throw the ball in the air. I know there was bad weather, but it's like Ritter wasn't on that list.
And as I will do on these Sundays this season, because this has been honestly, and there have been so many, but in a lot of ways the most frustrating, worst Jets season ever because of the Rodgers side of things. And maybe if there's any positive to this almost certainly should take Aaron Rodgers out of play trying to force his way back on the field because they are essentially eliminated at this point.
4-8.
I heard there were Zach Wilson apologists in my mentions being like, oh, and you wanted Zach Wilson out of the lineup. Well, yeah, it didn't work, but it was always a Hail Mary to see if one of these guys could provide a spark. Neither could. And now you have Bob Saleh, who has completely been stripped of any dignity, up on the press on the day of saying, oh, we might be turning to another quarterback next week. And again, it didn't have to be over after week 1. Maybe the Super Bowl dreams had to be over, but you could have still been competitive this year if you went out and got a real quarterback. You didn't, and like I said, you get what you deserve. So another gruesome Sunday at the Meadowlands. And the thing I worry about spinning forward now is, and I've seen it before, they got some really talented, it's a top-heavy roster for the Jets, but a lot of talented young guys that are living through a gruesome season after a horrible ending to last season, and it's just bad energy and bad vibes, and that leads to negative talk and guys maybe not wanting to be in the building anymore, and they're seeing what's going on elsewhere in the league where people are having fun and winning games. It's gotten to that place for the Jets. So I don't know how much else needs to be said about this game. The Falcons took care of business, but I wasn't overly impressed by them. It was like a mediocre team against a team that is completely imploded, and the mediocre team came out ahead.
Yeah, I feel really ultimately incorrect about what I thought the Falcons would be. And they're just a middle-of-the-road team in a terrible division. They're going to get an extra game in January that I don't need to watch. But
maybe. They're 6-6.
They're in that world.
They're 6-6, so that gives them a 1-game lead over the Saints and the Bucs. Hopefully, it's only one NFC South team to sneak in. Although, if the Falcons are at 6-6, they're one of 4 teams. We just mentioned the Rams that are at 6-6. It might turn into 5. It's a 6-6.
God help us.
Kind of
year. Get 2 teams from that Southern division.
Probably won't happen. AJ Terrell got hurt in this game, by the way. Their best defensive player after losing Grady Jarrett. They need him back.
All right. Let's see. Let us move to. You're dying with anticipation, aren't you? Let's move to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are looking to continue their quest. 12-5.
3rd down and a yard on the 9. 3 tight ends. Murray under center. Connor behind him. 1 receiver to the right. They hand it off. Connor to the left. 1st down. Connor dives for the end zone. Touchdown! James Conner with 2 scores in the welcome back party in Pittsburgh.
Oh, the Cardinals just broke out the black and blue brigade, baby. Light up and suck the beating heart, metaphorically speaking, out of your opponent.
Whoa.
Put that on the top 10. Yeah.
He's won before, too.
Clip it, and I know, Eric, when we're saying this, do we have a folder of the top calls of the year?
Yeah, I have
Great.
a folder.
Because once again, Ron Wolfley is announcing this is my competition to lose. I like that he clarified, metaphorically speaking.
Right.
James Conner, the former Steeler, ran for $105 and 2 touchdowns, including the game icer. And the Cardinals beat the Steelers 24-10. at the field formerly known as Heinz. It's their first win in Pittsburgh since the Summer of Love, Mark, which was
1969. Well, it depends who you are, but yeah.
That's correct. And Greggy, I mean, listen, come on now, Steelers. We can't. It can't be December and we're losing games to the tanking Cards.
We can't. For a game that was delayed by lightning multiple times in Pittsburgh in December. Come back to us, Mother Nature.
It's a high desert team flying across the country. They're just looking to get this game over with.
Right. And at one point was 24-3. It was highly entertaining and surprising. Sometimes you watch a game and you're just not expecting it to go a certain way. And late in the second quarter of this game, it was going how we expected. The Steelers had outgained the Cardinals at that point, 161-36, and then a 2-play sequence on the goal line changed everything. Kenny Pickett scrambled, trying to score at the 4. He got to the 1-yard line. He hurt his ankle. We're now hearing
again
that it's a significant injury, according to Jerry Dulac, and he just said not good, and that he'll miss some time, extended time. So if it's an ankle injury,
he's ducked serious injuries. Seems like he's getting hurt every few weeks,
and he takes a lot of big hits. Yeah. So that sounds like a multiple week injury. In comes Trubisky. He hands it off to Najee Harris. It's 3-3 at the time, even though the Steelers have totally dominated. They hand it to Harris. He gets stoned at the 1. Well, at least he got the Steelers defense backed up, or playing against the Cardinals, who haven't done anything, backed up. Kyler Murray leads one of the most epic drives of the year, 15 plays, 99 yards for a touchdown. And you know what? Kyler Murray played fantastic the rest of the game. So did James Conner, and they kind of dominated the second half of this game. Trey McBride went wild, the second-year tight end, 8 for 89 and a touchdown. He dominated that 99-yard drive. And I was just floored by how much this game changed in that sequence.
That 15-play touchdown drive was Arizona's longest march since 2015.
You know what else it is? It's the longest march in NFL history. I mean, yards-wise. You can't top it. It's tied to a bunch of them.
Cannot top it.
Can't beat it.
I have a weird stat from this game.
Weirder than what Greg just said, because that was weird.
I think I'd say it's less trenchant.
Okay.
Kyler Murray at 5'10" inches. To Rondale Moore, who's 5'7", their touchdown combination is the shortest duo to connect for a touchdown since Pard Pierce, who was 5'5", threw a touchdown to Dutch Sterneman, who was 5'8", on the 1920 Decatur Staleys. I think it was football.
Wow.
It was a different sport back then.
That's pretty good.
Although
that came from Adam Harstad.
Yeah.
And that was
factoid.
That was one of my favorite plays and throws of the week. And they actually called it back because of a holding call. But he has thrown touchdowns to Rondale Moore in the past, I believe. So that would still be a true statement,
unless one of them was much taller when that
happened. Yeah. But that was Kyler. You look at the box score and you see 145 yards on 23 attempts and a touchdown. You think, okay, it was a good game, nothing crazy. But he had 2 of the best throws I saw all week. One would have been a 60-yard play to Moore, who dropped it, and the other was like a 40-yard touchdown to Moore, where Moore made a great play. It was a great throw on the run, and it ends up getting called back. It was very confusing because they never showed flag on the broadcast. Suddenly they just are lining up again. But wow,
Ruck is asleep at the wheel.
Little James Conner revenge game in Pittsburgh. It was fun.
How about Mike Tomlin, who's got to be? I mean, we know our boy Mike T with the Aviators. He had to be furious with his Steelers laying an egg against the Cards. Let's listen.
You know, that was a horrible day at the office. We didn't do much right in that game, to be quite honest with you. So we got to own that, obviously, starting first and foremost with me. Just losing football.
A lot of it was like bad snaps.
He called it JV. He said it was a JV performance.
They had a lot of bad penalties, it seemed.
Yeah, they had a lot of big penalties, 9 for 77, and they're usually one of the least penalized teams. They had 3 different bad snaps. So you'll see in the box score that Trubisky and Pickett both had fumbles, but those were the bad snaps. They lost one, so they set up a short field. The Cardinals' touchdowns were often, other than the 99-yard one, were on short fields. And, yeah, it was just sloppy. Trubisky wasn't great, but he took a couple shots. He wasn't a disaster. It was just they got down fast in a hurry, and J.J. Watt went out with an injury. He did say after the game, T.J. Watt, that he's fine and he'll be playing on Thursday.
You know, I
says.
didn't want to be that guy because you guys were excited about it, but I couldn't get on board with this Pittsburgh offense turning the corner talk this week. And then this game happens and I have to watch it, but it's just like even when they were putting up more yards, they still weren't scoring points. And once again, they can't score.
Well, I think it was a reminder. Their running game was working great until the moment they got stuffed on the goal line. But when you suddenly get down 2 touchdowns, like that kind of went out the window.
Out.
Well, that so-called explosion happened against a Bengals team with 0 offense right now and a defense that's not as good as you thought it was. So.
And it included, again, 16 points, as Dan pointed out.
Back to normal.
And, this guy McBride, who, again, for the 17 people like myself who watched All or Nothing, and Trey McBride was featured, it's Hard Knocks in season.
Yeah.
Very likable guy who had very little role last year. I think he is their leading receiver for the season now, Dan, which maybe is not a great thing. But he's on pace for over 800 yards. That's pretty big time for a tight end.
Let's add some weapons in the offseason.
Nice hands.
Mark, we got to get 12-5 now. We got to be Patriots at Indy versus Cincy, at Seahawks, at Ravens. Need them all.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
And the Cardinals.
Need them all.
It's not happening.
Thank you, Cardinals, for winning this game and helping out the tankathon exploits of the Patriots here.
Let's take a break, and then we'll hit those Patriots. Good lead-in. I just think we got something here. That sting. Welcome back to Around the NFL, the flagship show. Hey, I was thinking, because I came into the studio before we started recording, came in a little hot, came in thinking, how if the NFL ever invested in some type of promotional campaign for our show. Hasn't really happened yet, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. They started to flex our financial might, $15 billion company.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they start running ads on Sunday for Around the NFL.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get to that soon.
So I just had an idea that popped into my head. Exterior, 2 dads at a playground in a park.
Okay.
And then, so dad one's like, oh, man, it's so hard to keep up with everything going on in this world, especially in the NFL, because my wife is dead. And then the other guy comes in, and their kids are playing in the background, and he's like, well, I got something for you. And the other guy's like, oh, a new wife? And he's like, no, I have the Around the NFL podcast. And then the guy with the dead wife goes, I don't need another show all about X's and O's of the game. And then the other guy goes, nah, this show's a little more than just about the X's and O's. End of commercial.
I think it also you could have different versions where it's all the same except his last line is different, and it's like, actually, these guys have a lot of fun too.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Good.
And so you're building and building different variations.
And it's unclear how the wife perished.
Well, I was going to say, you could have a last shot of him being like, well, off to the cemetery.
I mean, that seems like a downer.
I think our show would mask over a loss like that.
But here's the thing.
It's like
that would get people talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They take their jobs really seriously, but they don't take themselves too seriously.
Oh, yeah. These guys love ball, but it's not just about the ball. They have fun.
Very organic conversation.
Yeah.
It's like you're friends with them.
These are like the 3 buddies in the bar.
Especially if you're from northern Scotland.
There's Scotland coming up again on the show. Great country.
If anyone's listening from the ad department, just
that was a freebie.
Yeah.
Why have they never invested even a penny on our show?
I've done the slogans before.
Right.
I've never heard anything from the third floor.
Oh.
Maybe that's for the best. All right, let's head to Foxborough, where the bizarre misery continued for Gregg's Patriots.
Herbert to throw. Has a man.
Oh.
Erickson ends the game. Alex Erickson. When the game demanded excellence, Erickson emerges. Kudos to Kellen Moore.
You gotta
Do
know.
not shrink when the lights are the brightest, he puts the ball in his most valuable weapon's hands, and Justin Herbert delivers the victory.
Put that on the list.
That's pretty good. You got to know money. Like, got a chance to work with money for a few years on Power Rankings. The man's got a keen sense of humor and a dry wit. You could hear the sarcasm pulsing through that call.
God.
And again, also, if you're gonna put, and the other guy from San Diego too, if you're gonna take money out of Seal Beach where he's doing his surfing at 6 a.m. and you're gonna put him on a plane and send him to New England in December for this nothing burger of a game, at least get a W, Chargers, and they do. Because Cameron Dicker made 2 38-yard field goals. Punter J.K. Scott. Oh, he was pinning the Pats inside the 20 all day, 7 times in the cold and rain. And Herbert picked up that late completion, Marc Sessler. 6-0, the final. Whoa.
This was the worst football game I've ever watched.
Is it?
Wow.
6-0, 2 short field goals. Yeah, that's
I'd say from a distance, I'd kind of be into that kind of a game because it stands out as something very unusual.
It's a cess dog type of game. You're right.
Unwatchable. So Bailey Zappi is in there, Jan.
Is he worse than Mac Jones?
I think it's hard to detect who is worse because there's also nothing around them. They lost Ramondre Stevenson with an ankle injury pretty early in this, and that's really all they seem to have. I thought Zappi's day was characterized by a pretty great deep shot in the third quarter. They're trailing 6-0. Horrible drop by Tyquan Thornton. It's like they just can't get anything done. The Patriots' defense looked good because the Chargers...
6 points.
The Chargers are spiraling a little on offense. They cannot run the ball. They have no balance. The Patriots, this is a wacky stat. They are the first team to lose 3 straight games despite allowing 10 or fewer points in those 3 games since go back to 1938 to the Chicago Cardinals. Every other team this year that has allowed fewer than 10 or fewer points is 53-0. This offense is so bad.
0-3?
Yeah, this offense is so bad. They're so unwatchable, and yet I kind of think. I mean, I guess we don't know where Belichick will be after all this. It's like what they did last week by, I think overtly missing that final field goal.
I mean, they didn't try to miss.
I don't know.
I do know.
They weren't playing for the win. That
remains.
They played for
the jury is out, in my opinion, on that one.
Missed the kick.
Right,
so,
that was drastic. I mean, it's kind of working out perfectly. They're so bad that they're probably going to snag the number 1 or number 2.
Well, how about
pick
this?
without
I'll
any
take it a
problems.
step further. Everyone's connecting Belichick to the Chargers. I don't know whether there's actual logic to it. Well, there's logic, but actual smoke to it, or if there's fire to it, or what. But not only did you lose again, and it's remarkable how badly this season has gone. I never thought it could get this bad for Bill Belichick in New England. And I don't even want to go down the road of like, if he's really the greatest coach of all time, how could this be happening? Because there's a lot of things going on here. But he also made the Chargers look bad again in its own way. So it's another nail in the coffin of Brandon Staley, despite getting the win in a way. So the conspiracy theories continue to unfurl.
Staley's defense just pitched the shutout.
No, so that's the thing. Like it's
fair.
not all negative because I'm losing hope in their offense. Quentin Johnson had another terrible drop today. But
that was
awful. I mean, it's happening every week, so I don't know if there's no new story there. But Khalil Mack had 2 more sacks. He has 50. He leads the NFL with 15
Isn't
sacks.
that when I saw that on Twitter, I was thinking to myself, okay, we know he had that insane game when he had 7. So that's always going to juice it. But he has a chance to challenge for the all-time sack record. Khalil Mack,
He's not young.
2023.
Yeah.
That could happen. He certainly could challenge for a 20-sack season, which only about, 20 guys or whatever have done.
All he's got to do is play Zappi and Aiden O'Connell every week, and he'll get it done. Because Zappi, the little I watched, was just holding on to the ball forever on some of those plays. But this...
Still, 15 sacks.
No, still. He has been...
December 3rd.
He has been fantastic this year. The thing that gets me, and it happened these last 2 weeks with this team, is Belichick has spent more money and more time, and he's so worried about the details, and he invests in all these special teams only players, and their special teams are terrible. They're bottom 5 in DVOA. Their kicker, who they drafted and got rid of Folk, is terrible. And then every other time I looked at this game, you got Bryce Behringer, who's one of the worst punters in the league. Bryce Behringer, who's another rookie punter, who they also drafted. They drafted a punter.
And the kicker's no great
he's terrible. And, the difference in punting in this game and the kicker, it's if you've lost that with Belichick, I know the defense has been playing well, and they have been.
They have.
But, it's still not good enough.
But maybe we could save this conversation. But how is Bill Belichick presiding over something this truly dreadful? How has this happened? How could it happen?
Well, I think
Is he just old?
I think
Is he old?
he's making personnel
He's
mistakes
been
for
in
a
the
long
same
time.
place, and he has no checks on his power. And the few people that maybe not had checks on his power, but would answer to him or like have some power in the organization, they're all long gone. Nick Caserio, he's long gone. Like they're all.
And Tom Brady's long gone, of course, as well.
He's been a bad GM for a long time.
Yes, let's hear from Bill Belichick. Awkward press conferences are the norm, and now, he's forced to answer these questions about his own job security.
Bill, do you want to stay here and keep coaching the Patriots?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this week, getting ready for the Steelers.
Read that that's kind of a Bill answer, but it all feels like the beginning of the end.
You and I are getting Steelers Patriots on Thursday night, Dan.
Oh yeah, a little Trubisky zap dog. How about this? The world is getting Jets Patriots in Week 18.
But that's not
a meteor.
Not many people will watch that
at the Earth, like ready to eviscerate everything that lives upon it.
I'd take the meteor.
By the way, the Chargers in the AFC at 5-7 are 2 games back of a playoff spot. You can't totally X them out, but if they were in the NFC, you'd say they'd have a chance. But in the AFC, 2 games back with 5 games to play and a lot of teams to hop is a lot. But
can't do that with you, bro.
They have to just win out, essentially.
Can't go there,
which
with
they
you,
will
dog.
not be doing.
They will not be doing that, most likely.
Dog,
we're
I
in
can't
that
roll
part of
with
the
you
year
there.
where we had these conversations, and you're just waiting for the slow crawl of time to remove these teams permanently and mathematically.
All right, let's head to Tampa, where the Panthers and Bucks did battle in the downpour.
The snap, a good one. Belt high, dropping to throw. Bryce Young flushed out of the pocket, flushed down the hills, the ball upfield. It is intercepted, picked off at the 43-yard line by Antoine. Magnificent Antoine Winfield. What the minute he was in the middle of the field and chased it down to the sideline. And Young throws a pick, and the Bucks have it.
The great Gene Deckerhoff with the call. Yes, Antoine Winfield. When it looked as if the Panthers could somehow find a way, Bryce Young threw it up for grabs. Winfield came away from the ball from the sideline, steps from the sideline, and the Buccaneers escape with a 21-18 win over the moribund Carolina Panthers, playing their first game without Frank Reich. So, what to take away from this game? First of all, let's talk about Mike Evans. Just when this game appeared to be slipping away from the Bucs, and Baker was having a miserable game, he was averaging like 4 yards an attempt. He hits Evans over the middle. Evans goes down the sideline like a house on fire. He dives toward the pylon. They mark him down at the 1, as the officials often were today. They were wrong. He actually cleared the pylon, and upon review, he gets credited with the touchdown as he deserves. 75 yards, changed the game, got everybody back in line, and gave Baker a stat line that you wouldn't be afraid to show to your family. Evans finished with 7 for 162. He is now over 1,000 yards. He has now gone over 1,000 yards for 10 consecutive seasons. Jerry Rice has the record of 11 straight seasons. That's wild. And it's funny, I think it was Nick Wessling who texted me at the beginning of the year and says, like, Mike Evans doesn't get enough respect. He should be in the superstar club. Look what this guy's done. And the interesting thing about Evans's career is he's gone over 1,000, as I just said, every single year for a decade. He has 10 touchdowns this year. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is, and he had that golden period with Brady, but he's also played with a lot of ham and eggers, Mark, and Baker is, kind of on the upper scale of that type of group of quarterback. He is just an incredible player. So I don't know if he's a superstar, but I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Right, because, I mean, literally Jerry Rice is one of the greatest players of all time, but Jerry Rice had great quarterback play around him.
And he didn't do it to start the career. This is a record in terms of starting his career that, like, Evans is just way ahead of anyone else.
I think one thing about Evans this year specifically, because remember, they were just an unwatchable mess on offense for much of last season, and it was like it's Tom Brady, and Tom Brady and Evans were not on the same page. When Baker's been good, I mean, Baker and Evans have had a pretty good connection from wire to wire this season, and it's just another example of like Evans adjusting to whatever's around him and being that consistent.
Right, and he could I think he only topped 1,400 yards once. He had a 1,500-yard season in 2018. I mean, he's got a chance to even get there this year. He's in a contract
He's on
year.
pace for about 1,400 yards.
Yeah, he's in a contract year. Between him and Winfield, they actually have two guys that have a chance. Evans probably isn't going to make All-Pro because receiver's so tough to make that. But I think Winfield has a chance. I really have just been so impressed by Winfield each and every week. He had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, 3 passes defense. He had the interception, 8 tackles. I just haven't seen a more impactful safety, so that's been a weekly thing with him.
He is Evans, and we'll move off Evans, but he is an interesting player, and he's kind of a fascinating, Greg, when you get to your free agency 101.
Yeah.
I think age 31 season, one of the most consistent players in the history of the sport. Like, what kind of market would he have? Anyway, the Bucs
Big one.
In the NFC South, which is bad, as we've stated, that was only the second win for Tampa Bay in the last 8 games. But now that they are in a tie for second place in the division. So they are in the mix, and it wasn't always pretty in this game, but they got the job done. On the other side of the ball, no Bisaccia bump here for the Panthers, who were competitive in the rainy conditions, but they're still just, you're not seeing anything with this offense. Chuba Hubbard did some things, got in the end zone twice for him, but I just don't see it. I have this theory that I'm working on. I'm workshopping that Bryce Young is getting 1 inch shorter every week now. So now he's about 5'6". The
there aren't that many more weeks.
The pocket feels impossibly muddy around him. And there was one play in this game where the rush was coming and he kind of just turned and threw it behind him and it bounced out of bounds for a fumble. And
Aaron Brooks like.
There was another play. It was a big, I believe it was a 3rd down where it was very clear he had to check out of a play. And he doesn't, and they run right into a big loss where they're showing a blitz, and he just doesn't see it. So whoever it is that's tasked with kind of getting him on the right track, they have a lot of work.
Well, it's a lost year, and it's going to be an off season of a billion storylines about how now he feels comfortable, and it's a new start. I mean, it's been a rough spot, but like I thought that 4th down game ender, like he had a chance to, if he were reacting more quickly, to hit Adam Thielen. It was like it shouldn't have happened the way it happened. Like it was just
He's not
another
processing.
Right.
It's
So
all
it's
bad.
just sort of like not really. There's not a part of it where you see. It's crazy to me that he outdueled, if that's how you want to put it, C.J. Stroud in the one time they met. Like it was like the most atypical game.
Outdueled, it feels strong.
But to go and have won that game, it feels like 4 years ago. It's just,
Outplayed slightly, I would say.
it's
I
his
would
best
agree.
game, I think.
Usually outdueled is like two
Yeah, no,
athletes playing at a high
No, it was
level, and one
15
edges the other.
I could be wrong. I don't think the Panthers scored a touchdown in that game. I believe they won with 5 field goals. But I was getting a lot of texts. Now, you mentioned they didn't get the Bisaccia bump.
No.
But according to our friend Spice Rack, the
Right.
fired coach principal, at least in terms of the desert, is 9-0 since September 29th. I can't fact check this.
That means
he's
nothing.
including college.
Can we please?
But Carolina kept it closer than expected. Is my point here.
You don't get credit for the Bisaccia bump when you lose.
No, okay.
This isn't. We're not all in the desert. Okay.
No.
That's for teams that win after the firing.
I do want to use his comparison.
Not gamblers who win.
Because he was going nuts because he wanted the Panthers to do better and win this game. And at one point they
You
were
said he
down
was on
10.
fire.
He was on fire,
Spicy.
comparing Young to Bryce Young in terms of his body language, saying it was
Wait, comparing
identical. Bryce Young to Achilles Smith was his comparison.
Oh, wow.
That he wants to
No.
be anywhere but here. I will just push back just a little slightly,
Go ahead.
which is just it reminds me a little bit, maybe because they're all number 1 picks. Alex Smith's rookie season was the worst top pick or really rookie pick I've ever seen. And he bounced back pretty quick to be
Spin it, baby.
okay. And Eli and Jared Goff were close. So all those guys were in a similar situation where they showed almost no bright spots their entire rookie season. So it's happened before.
There's something else here, though. Like,
Yeah.
you're right. And it's like there needs to be patience. But I really watch Bryce Young and feel like, to your point, Dan, like he plays small. And it's like, I don't know if he's not Eli Manning, is prototypical perfect quarterback type build.
Right.
Like,
And he
you're
is
gonna have to-
small. It's not,
He is.
He plays small. He
Right.
is small, and he's getting sacked. They're on pace to Carolina's line is not helping him. He's on pace to be sacked 66 times, which is almost the team record. So that's a recipe for disaster as well. Oh. Man, they are hot on our tails, Greg, in the picks competition. They are right behind us now. 2 games.
You should have seen Mark's face when you said us just now. He's like, "What is this narrative, Dan?"
What is your record right now?
Greg and I. What is our record, Greg? 11-1.
What are you talking about?
I'm 11-1. You're 1-0. Jumping on with me. And actually, you're not, because the 1 week I got wrong. The 3 of us all did it together.
Well, there's a lot of different standings at play. So I'm 1-1 when we picked
12-1
together.
now. I'm 12-1.
I'm 1-0 since I just got on the train. I'm 1-1 overall after they blew up the entire operation after the horrible Joe Burrow injury designation fiasco. And then if you want to look at the broader, I think I'm.
I don't want to look.
7.
I don't want to look at the broader. Like I think this is a farce.
Do you want to join the Rosenthal train? Because it was a little bit of a bumpy ride today, but we were drinking champagne and eating caviar.
I locked up the Niners with confidence and never for a second had any concern about that affair.
Nice job.
That was a good luck. Hey, we all got dubs.
Yeah,
right across the board.
I'll travel my own path though.
You're a brave man. Me,
I'm like second to last place. So
it's just me. It's Greg in the motorcycle and me in the sidecar.
This is one of the most bizarre podcast strategies we've ever had. Storylines.
All right, Sunday Night Football.
3 receivers right, 2 to the left. Snap to Mahomes. Looking. Steps up. Scrambling left. Still looking. Still waiting. Fires it into the end zone. Broken up. Incomplete. And there is your dagger. The game is over. The Packers have defeated the Chiefs 27-19. Oh, what a moment for this young team.
Wayne Larrabee with the call for Packers Radio. And yes, it is a big moment for the Green Bay Packers, a team on the rise now, 6-6 after a 27-19 win over the mighty Chiefs. Well, are the Chiefs mighty? I'm not sure about that anymore. But a big win for the Packers coming off, obviously, a huge Thanksgiving win over the Lions. And all of a sudden, Green Bay looks like a team that can make some real noise in a wide open NFC. And boys, we got to start. Unfortunately, and we're gonna give the Packers their flowers, but we got to talk about what everybody's going to be talking about, which is an absolute meltdown by the officiating crew in the final minute and a half of this game. I'm actually looking at it right now, boys. You can make the case that they blew 5 calls in the final 65 seconds of the game. Patrick Mahomes scrambles out of bounds at the KC 40 for 10 yards. They penalize Owens on Green Bay for unnecessary roughness. Bogus call, not the right call, not even a question.
And was an emphasis on by the rules committee in the offseason to not let quarterbacks bait defenders into those calls, and they still miss.
Terry McAuley comes in for NBC, says, "Hey, this is the wrong call. This is that you cannot throw a flag here." The very next play, Patrick Mahomes to Rashee Rice for 10 yards. He's down by contact. They rule it a fumble. That gets overturned on review, but that even has a butterfly effect by missing that call and ruling Rice up when the ball comes out. That leads to the Isaiah Pacheco fight, where he takes a swing and he gets suspended. That's a missed call, overturned on review.
And that took about 27 minutes, it felt like, for them to sort all that out.
Then you have Patrick Mahomes dropping back to pass, and he unfurls a deep ball to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, a clear pass interference. Once again, no doubt about it. They do not throw the flag. Again, they bring in McAuley, and McAuley says, yeah, that is obvious pass interference. It should also be said that MVS also made a catch on the play prior to that, where his forward momentum had stopped, and he's moving backwards as he's pushed out of bounds, but the side judge rules that he was able to stop the clock. That's a blown call. And then finally, and I know this one is going to be the one, especially Packer fans are going to say, shut up, Dan. But a Hail Mary throw, and it's not really even a Hail Mary, guys. It was from the 33-yard line.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce gets a two-handed shove in the back as the ball's approaching the end zone, taking him out of the play. And yes, Greg, you can say on that play, nobody throws the flag there. But one, he took essentially the guy most capable of making that play out of the play with a two-handed shove. And two, man, I know makeup calls exist. If there's a way to make up for the MVS blown call, maybe you throw the flag there, but they didn't, and the Packers are the benefactors.
Well, they're all humans, and I don't know who made the non-call.
That's the problem. We got to get some AI refs in here.
I don't know who made the non-call on the pass interference to Valdez-Scantling. Should have been a pass interference. It was Corey Valentine that was in coverage. That, to me, in the moment, felt like a makeup non-call, essentially, from the Mahomes, because that happened right after the Mahomes, which they blew that call. It was brutal. I don't know if they somehow knew that they blew that call, but they were suddenly in the crosshairs. They helped the Chiefs get to that point, and then right after that was the throw down the field, and that was the one of all of these that was truly egregious and probably changed the game. I think it's worth pointing out. Yes.
It's 1st and 10 at the 6, Greg.
Okay.
Or
It's
first and goal.
Okay. And they struggled twice in the red zone tonight, and they had to hit a 2-point conversion, and there's overtime. So it changed how the whole rest of the game would have gone, but it's just worth noting, you don't know that the result of the game is going to happen.
Right.
It's still brutal.
Right. It's like we were saying, before we recorded, it wasn't like any one of these calls is going to stir up the competition committee to look at things differently. The combination of all of them, though, suggested a officiating gaggle of officials who seemed completely out of control. There was just an air of the game was melting down.
Yeah.
And it's who's in charge here and why is this taking so long? It's none of it was so overly complex that it should have looked the way it did to us. And when you got McCauley, I thought he did a good job. He came on 3 or 4 times and forcefully said, wrong call. And I guess for me, the whole thing, they are human, but the concept of a makeup call is not how things should be done. It's if you made one mistake, you don't then allow yourselves to visibly make another without telling us what's going on. And it looked like they were falling further and further from an element of control.
I think that MVS no call, given the stakes, is one of the worst non-calls I've seen, period. That was one of the worst blown DPI calls you could possibly see. And the fact that it was dead center in the middle of the field, no question about it. It can't happen. And you know what? I mentioned it earlier in this episode. I guess I had my eyes, on a typical Sunday, we're going to have our eyes individually on about 5 games pretty closely. Almost every game I watched today, there were really bad mistakes being made by the officiating. And I hate talking about this because obviously you want to focus on what Jordan Love and the Packers are doing. But
we'll get to it.
We have to talk about it. And I know on Park Avenue that they're going to be talking about it first thing Monday morning because it's affecting the quality of the product.
It's just rare that there's 2 calls in that spot. Patrick Mahomes in Lambeau, Sunday Night Football, the biggest stage we have, a really unique, entertaining game in that you have 2 calls, and I'm separating the Mahomes hit out of bounds and the first pass interference non-call as just clearly wrong. No one's going to argue that. We will see the pool reports. They might be out by the time we finish talking these 10 minutes. They will have to just admit we missed those calls. They were absolutely crystal clear. And that it's pretty unique. I can't remember any game in this sort of spotlight where there's a cavalcade of calls like this all in a row. It was a pretty unique circumstance.
The problem is they could admit after what we all see with our own eyes.
I'm just guessing, though, admit. They try not to, but those 2 would be tough to.
There's just a lack of, I wouldn't say the words accountability, but it's just when this happens to a team and you get totally hosed on an island game on national television in a circus of officiating, all it just leaves you with is the loss.
Let's talk about the Packers.
And they deserve to lose, too, by the way, Chiefs.
What it's worth. I don't like that either.
I just mean teams fritz out, players fritz out, coaches fritz out, and sometimes, to your point, I think, Mark, officials often fritz out too.
Yeah.
But I can't live with that.
Yeah.
That's, as a fan, I want the officials to do their job and stay out of the way. And we're just never going to know really how that game really should have turned out because the officials got in the way.
All I mean is they were in that position where they had no timeouts. They had to drive the length of the field in 109 for a touchdown and a 2-point to tie. So they had put themselves in that position.
They certainly did. And the reason they did is because, for the most part, Packers outplayed the Chiefs in this game, and you're seeing it. And Matt LaFleur, by the way, the bearded boy himself, 16-0 in December games.
Wow.
The Packers, who were left for dead, I think they said on the game telecast, and it checks out because it felt that way, once went 40 days this season without winning a football game. And now you can make the case that outside of the Niners, they're the hottest team in the NFC. So they're very interesting, Mark, from that perspective. And the thing I'll say about Jordan Love in this one, Mark, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, it's not just the stats that look great right now. It's how confident he's playing and how you could tell he's in control of everything he sees. And for a guy that's as young as he is, as inexperienced as he is, and as lost as it seemed he was like a month or so ago, it's pretty remarkable, the turnaround.
It's, I think, one thing that's wonderful about kind of covering the whole league versus just your team is that you start to see operations just grow up right before your eyes. And it's Jordan Love, and it's like the offense around him. And I thought tonight there were 4 or 5 throws. Well, I can think of one to Christian Watson where it's like he is just throwing with intense like confidence and putting it like into tight windows. And there's a couple, there were a couple drops, but he put the ball right on the money. And I just think on top of that, like the way he's seen the field, the way he uses his legs in moments, the fact that he's pairing well in a Matt LaFleur offense, and Matt LaFleur 2 weeks in a row, because Thanksgiving feels like about 7 eras ago. 2 great Matt LaFleur coached games. I think that like this is working well because they're kind of all growing up together.
Yeah, I said when they were at their nadir, I brought up how in the offseason we said we're going to learn a lot about Matt LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended it with some smug little thing of like, they are right now like one of the worst offenses in the league.
You jerk.
Okay. Right now, we're going to learn a lot about Matt LaFleur this season. He has taken a young quarterback, and I think Love deserves the most credit. But I think with the weapons around him and the amount of play action, he really there. I hit on Russell Wilson really relying on play action for. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Ryan Tannehill did it for years. A lot of teams do it. He is relying on play action as much as any quarterback in the league, and it is hitting. Guys are open, and then when he is doing that back pedal and he has to do something special, like that rainbow shot to Romeo Doubs, which looked like a bad idea, and I don't know how it fell down in there. Like, it still was he still got it exactly.
He Bermuda triangled it in there.
He got it exactly where it wanted to go, and I think you're right. He's playing with such incredible confidence that when he's doing these back pedals and making these crazy throws, like I'm almost surprised when he's not hitting him. These are all like chunk plays too. So like rookies, Malik Heath, and is that even a person? Dontavian Wicks, and just all these guys like 15 to 25-yard chunk plays. It's pretty awesome.
And it's gotten this bad for the Chiefs with their offense. If Patrick Mahomes is not handing the ball off or getting the ball in the hands of Pacheco, who's a very good running back, or getting it to Travis Kelce, who's not, dominating at the same clip as past years, or Rashee Rice, who's a consistent guy for them now, it's bad news.
But limited. Consistently good, but limited
Within
in what
the
he
realm,
does.
like
Yes.
today, he had 8 for 64 on 9 targets. Like, at least he's a guy that he's not a liability. Everyone else that he's trying to get involved, whether it's MVS, who, yes, got jobbed, but let's face it, probably would have dropped it anyway. Richie James, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Sky Moore, that route he ran on the Mahomes interception. I mean, you just like, who do you trust? Kadarius Toney, who's like not even on the roster anymore at this point. They have work to do in the offseason to fix it. And again, like every time you think maybe they're coming out of it, there's another one of these games that tell you no. There's just a limit to this offense, and it's kind of a stunning subplot of this season.
They're really frustrating when they get into certain situations where in the past you could simply trust, or you'd be a fool not to trust Mahomes to bail you out and to have some targets that would help you too. But it's like we're running out of time here. And I with the Chiefs, we'll see where we are in the playoffs. But you asked if they were mighty still, and I think it's a fair question because you can't just rely on Andy Reid, the mind of Andy Reid, and the brilliance of Patrick Mahomes to rescue an offense that it's missing pieces and has been all year.
So they finished the game so ugly, and that's what we'll remember. 3 and out, then the interception, which was going to be a tough pass, but Moore really did a terrible job.
The effort wasn't even great.
He killed them by slowing down on the route. And Keyshawn Nixon made a really nice interception too. You don't see guys make a nice play like that. And then the way that game ended, I should note though that each of these teams only had 7 drives. That is an exceptionally low number for both teams to have in an NFL game. So to me, this was sort of like an old Chiefs game where it was like, oh man, our defense stinks tonight. We need Patrick Mahomes to answer every single drive. We just haven't seen a Chiefs defense give up points like that. 27 points in 7 drives is terrible. The Chiefs, even 19 points in 7 drives is pretty great. Like that points per drive, that would just barely like lead the league in points per drive, 19 points in 7 drives. Like it just was so limited here. But the Packers were scoring almost every single time. And the Chiefs, is their defense going to stay out this level the whole season, outstanding? We've seen a little leakage lately. They've had some injuries at linebacker. Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil are out, so that's part of it. Brian Cook got carted out of this game. They're starting safety. So that side of the ball might be creating a little issues too.
Here's the final stat. Okay, it's from Tony Holzman Escareno. He is the NFL media senior researcher. Kansas City, and I know points per drive. I understand it.
I'm just saying they were okay tonight. They were pretty good.
I know, but does it feel that way? Anyways,
here it is.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have scored fewer than 20 points in 6 games this season. The Chiefs had 6 such games in Patrick Mahomes' first 5 seasons as a starter combined. Wild.
Yeah, and it looks that way.
8 in that 4th loss is big. They're now behind 3 teams in the AFC who have 3 losses. Ravens, Jags, we'll see on Monday night, and the Dolphins. And the Packers here at 6-6. You look at their schedule, and all the projection models now have the Packers.
They're golden.
Who are the
they just take care of some business
as the favorite, as like a decent size, over 50% chance to make the playoffs.
I even think where we'll be potentially in 3 weeks. They're 6-6. They play the Giants, the Bucks, and the Panthers before finishing with the Vikings and Bears.
Anything less than 2 dubs there is a disaster. All right. A disaster. In this NFC, they'll be fine, no matter what happens.
They could probably.
All right. Tomorrow, Monday, we got a doubleheader. We got the NFL Plus game of the week. We'll be breaking down the Niners' dominant effort against the Eagles, and then Monday Night Football and news recap. I'm sure there will be maybe some follow-up to everything we just talked about here coming out of Lambeau. Until then, you know what you got to do. Heed the call.